Welcome to the Fund2000.com real estate podcast. My name is Chuck Ham, and I've got a few updates for you today. Welcome. Let's go right into this. First off, this is Inauguration Day. It's also Martin Luther King Day. Kids are off school, and the president was inaugurated. At least here in California, the kids are off school. I think other states might not have this holiday anymore. It's a big day for regulatory policy, especially in mortgages. And this is a mortgage podcast, so I wanted to put that out there. There has been discussion that under the Trump administration, the Consumer Protection Financial Bureau, CPFB, could be gutted or abolished. I'm not sure which. I'm hoping for either one of those scenarios. They have made mortgages very difficult. There are quite a few policies that I look forward to going away, hopefully. So another related update is interest rates are still high, and I'm hoping that with decreased regulation that costs of mortgage, the pricing will go down, the interest rates will go down. That could be, but obviously, usually it's economy and market factors that drive interest rates, and we don't know which way interest rates are going in the immediate future. For the past several months, they've been tending higher. So we're looking forward to a decrease in interest rates, and we're looking forward to a whole lot more other improvements in policy that could affect the real estate industry. One other update is at the state level. California has a bunch of new legal updates that relate to real estate. We've already discussed some of that. Foreclosures, I think, is one of the things we discussed in the previous episode. California is also making it law that this is kind of in response to the NAR settlement we've discussed on this podcast. NAR is the National Association of Realtors, and the settlement, which went into effect last year, 2024, requires that the MLSs no longer offer compensation on the MLS. The policy change is to promote negotiation of real estate commissions, what agents are compensated. Now, the additional policy here requires that before showing any property, an agent must obtain a buyer representation agreement. And California, in response, has now decided that in California, we'll make it a law that you must have a buyer representation agreement. But the difference with the law versus the new settlement policy, NAR policy, in other words, MLS policy that most agents are bound to, California agents will be required to obtain a buyer broker representation agreement anytime before making an offer. So under California law, it's not required to have a buyer broker representation agreement prior to showing the property, but that is required under the NAR MLS policy. California agents will simply be required to have a buyer broker representation before making an offer. And to me, that doesn't seem like a bad thing in and of itself, but I do not think it's a response to the anti-competitive issues that underpinned the NAR lawsuit. The NAR lawsuit was about price fixing, and I think this new responsive policy of requiring buyers to sign buyer broker representation agreements before seeing any property, I think that's more anti-competitive policy. What happens right now, especially in our market that is so limited, we have a tight inventory, limited inventory. If you're a buyer and you're going to go see a property, or you want to see a property, you're now going to be pressured in ways that you were never pressured before to sign a buyer broker representation agreement. And if this market of limited inventory continues, buyers are going to feel pressured to sign whatever these agents make them sign or present for signing, so that they can get an opportunity to buy a home. That's the issue. That's one of the reasons why I think this is so anti-competitive. And why it's so disappointing that in response to an antitrust lawsuit, we have this new policy, which to me seems absurdly anti-competitive also. Anyways, I was thinking that we'd get into more details with this, but I'm not sure that it's worth it. I don't think it's a good policy because people should feel free to sign and negotiate what these agreements will say without the pressure of having to see the property. It makes more sense that if you're already making an offer, like under California law, you're already signing some agreements, you're already negotiating. It makes more sense that you would sign a buyer broker representation at that point, because you're already working on that kind of thing. Maybe you're already thinking about hiring one or two different agents, and you're price shopping on commissions and that kind of thing. But at the early stage of seeing a property for the first time, the showing, that's what this is. First time you're seeing the property, you're going to have to commit to that agent. And maybe you can convince that agent who's got access to this property to let another agent see the property. But what if they have this exclusive pocket listing and it's not even listed on the MLS yet? What if it's not even available yet, but the owner says, yeah, I'll let you show this property this one time to this one person? It puts a lot of pressure on that buyer to sign whatever this agent is going to present for signing. So that's my opinion. We might talk more about that later. But another interesting thing, last week we got news that the Supreme Court denied the NAR, National Association of Realtors, appeal to a continued Department of Justice probe. So this is the interesting thing. The NAR settlement was supposed to settle the matter, and it did, to the extent that the plaintiffs are being compensated. I think all of them, or maybe most of them, are being compensated and settling out of the lawsuit, and that ends the lawsuit. However, the Department of Justice, once, I believe, I'm not sure what triggered it, but I believe once they got word of settlement instead of it going to trial, and what the settlement was, that they were gonna that the settlement would require no more offers of compensation on the MLS, and instead require buyers to sign buyer broker representations agreement, like I just explained. I think once the DOJ heard that, they thought the same things I'm probably thinking. They probably thought the same things I just got done explaining, which is, it sounds like more anti-competitive behavior, more anti-competitive policy. So they reopened their investigation, and NAR sued to stop the investigation. So this decision is a result of NAR suing and losing. They sued in the D.C. court, Washington D.C. Circuit Court, or I'm not sure where it starts. For some reason, in April of last year, Court of Appeals in D.C. decided that the DOJ would continue investigating, could continue investigating National Association of Realtors, and then the NAR appealed that decision. So they took it to the United States Supreme Court, and just last week it was announced the U.S. Supreme Court is denying review, which allows the DOJ to continue its investigation. And I don't have a whole lot of great feelings for the National Association of Realtors, so I'm happy. I do appreciate the opportunity that I've had to grow a business, but I have to say that, it's a lot of this anti-competitive, antitrust stuff that has benefited all agents that are with MLSs. But at the same time, we're also tolerating these anti-competitive policies, and we see how bad it is, not only for buyers and for sellers, but for the agents themselves and for growing brokerages like ours. It's really hard for a small firm like ours to grow with the similar anti-competitive policies. And I have other examples, but today is not the day for that. I just want to reemphasize that the National Association of Realtors is a lot like other big firms. they engage in anti-competitive business practices. They implement those policies that basically favor the big firms, the big members of the association, the big members of the MLSs. That's what got the offer of compensation onto the MLS in the first place and started this, crazy situation where agents were basically just announcing, regardless of what the buyer agent would earn or what the buyer agent's worth was as a buyer's agent, regardless of the fact that the buyer couldn't negotiate that commission. This is what started it. It's big firms trying to ensure or obligate the world, the parties to the contracts, that there is going to be a particular compensation. And we benefit from that. Even as a small firm, we benefit from that. But it's mostly the big firms that benefit from that. But that's what keeps them pricey. That's what keeps them expensive. And people, how long have you been hearing, especially in other states? I don't hear so much about this in California, but I remember being in other states hearing how expensive and overpriced realtors are. And that's why in some of these other markets, you see a whole lot more for sale by owners. You see a whole lot more smaller firms able to compete because they have this value of trying to save money and looking for the best service. We are happy that the DOJ can hopefully break up some of this anti-competitive policy and stuff going on, and hopefully we'll have some better news and updates later. Final update is regarding me personally. For several years, I've been working on obtaining a license to practice law in the state of California. The nice thing is that it's done on January 2nd of this year. I was sworn in and now licensed to practice law. You can look me up. I've got a state bar number. And now people are asking me what's going to be different now. What's going to change? And for the most part, nothing. I'll continue doing the podcast. I love sales. I'll continue doing sales. The income is good. We've already talked about, anti-competitive behavior. That's a joke. We do not engage in any anti-competitive behaviors, but I think there's some policies out there that still keep pricing pretty high, and everybody benefits from that. Hopefully that changes, but we are doing our best to, as a broker, as an attorney, we'll do our best to make everything better for our clients and consumers, our borrowers, our sellers and buyers, and our agents. I'm going to continue serving all of you, and attorneys as well. We still have our non-judicial foreclosure business, and that's great. I continue to be involved in that, but I think we will be expanding into the judicial foreclosure area. That's got some similarities to the non-judicial foreclosure process. And obviously judicial foreclosure is going to require an attorney, and now that I am an attorney, I can start providing that service, especially since I've already got some understanding of the way the process works. There are some important differences. Those differences in the judicial foreclosure process are interesting. We might discuss those on a different episode. So anyhow, it's been good. I'm glad to be starting a new year, a new chapter of my life, and to continue here and doing all the things that we already do well and enjoy. If you have any questions about this podcast or want to reach me, contact me at chuck@fund2000.com. Thanks for listening as always, and I look forward to more.